a little bit of Spanglish because it's the weekend and I feel like it. Entonces voy a hablar un poco en inglés, un poco en español. Ojalá se pueda entender. What I'm going to be doing today is estampillas, little stamps. So, este es un ejemplo. I'm just making them in rubber, so I'm carving them. Solamente está en goma. I'm using rubber blocks, but you can also use erasers, anything that's rubber that you can carve into with either an X-Acto blade or a carving tool like I have here. Este es un ejemplo de las estampillas que se pueden comprar en la tienda. So this is an example of what you can buy in the store. But we're a little creative today, so we are going to make our own stamps. I like this because you can store the pieces that you're not using in the back, so you don't use them. So just quickly, nomás para explicar lo que estoy haciendo hoy, estoy haciendo estampillas. Voy a diseñarlos, los voy a recortar. Y este es un ejemplo de uno que ya está hecho. Este de negro porque le puse tinte, pero por ejemplo aquí está otro que corté, lo lavé, está limpio. Y si ves, el lado donde está más enfrente, donde va a tocar el papel, es lo que va a salir negro, o el color de tinte que usas. So if you see the part that's raised is going to be what touches the paper first, and that's what's going to make a print on your paper. So, this is an example of what I printed using just this simple little stamp that I carved out. And you can see this is just using regular ink that I have. Let me just get this out of the way. Whoop. That I just have here in the corner. And then I'll show you how I do that. Entonces este es la impresión que yo hice con la estampilla. Solamente le puse el tinte y con la primera capa, de tinte, hice 5 impresiones. Se puede ver, este tiene más tinta y con cada estampilla que hago después de eso, se hace más y más blanco, ya no tiene tinta. So you can see this is the first one that I did. It's got a lot of ink and a huge print that I made. The same little stamp that I carved out, there's less and less of an impression. So that's just something to keep in mind. Lo que me gusta es tener una libreta para poder ver cómo se va a ver la impresión. Y si no me gusta el diseño o si necesito recortarlo un poquito, puedo usar mi herramienta y arreglarlo mientras estoy trabajando. Tengo un diseño que encontré en línea, una calaverita y unas flores, y lo que voy a hacer es voy a transferir o copiar este diseño a mi bloque de goma. Voy a usar solamente un lápiz con la puntita suave. Los lápices de artista siempre tienen una letra o un número al final, que es entre H y B. H significa hard, olivo, y B significa suave. Entonces estoy buscando un lápiz con la punta suave, así para transferir el polvito de pincel de lápiz a mi goma. I have everything ready. I always think so. And what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to trace around the outline of this drawing here. I'm going to do it pretty thick because I want as much of that pencil dust, that graphite, to transfer onto my rubber block. Está muy recio, me dice si yo lo puedo bajar. Si quieres escuchar una canción específica, me puedes decir también. Como hoy es Día de los Muertos, Día de los Angelitos, estoy pensando en calaveritas. Cosas para poner en el altar. So I'm just thinking of skulls and cute little things to put in an altar. Today is Day of the Dead or Day of the Angels. Specifically today is the day where people honor the children that have passed. And so the spirits of the children come and visit their family this time of year. There's usually toys, favorite foods, sweets, candies, all of that stuff gets put on the altar today. So whether you celebrate it or not, it's a nice tradition to have. Just to think about those people that made a difference in your life, whether they're here or whether they're not. Yesterday I ate way too much candy, so today I'm gonna try to take it a little easy. Solamente estoy trazando las líneas en este dibujo y después vas a ver cómo lo voy a recortar en el bloque de goma. Tracing, I'm also pushing the pencil in so I get a nice thick line, and I can make sure that graphite gets transferred over. You can do this with your own drawings in your sketchbook, or you can find something cool off the internet. And you can put as much detail or as little as you want. It's really your call. Okay. The music's louder than my voice. There we go. Hopefully that's a little better. Yeah, let me know. I'm still trying to figure all this out, so just let me know if you can't hear me, or if I need to speak up, because that's something I need to learn, is how to use a loud voice. Hopefully with a little bit of time I can get better at this. But in case you don't already know me, I like skulls, I like cats, I like cute things, sweet things, and especially video games. So the song that I'm playing for the playlist for today is a bunch of music inspired by, it's remixed by the game Street Fighter 2. Which is one of my favorite games. Ok, ya casi terminó. Trazar todo esto, a ver. Espera checar que tengo todo. I think so. Okay. Entonces, no sé si se puede ver, pero donde brilla es donde está, donde puse el lápiz para trazar. So the shiny bit is the graphite. And what I'm going to do, a ver, we'll figure it out. Either the paper goes on top or the paper goes on bottom with the rubber piece on top. But what I'm going to do is put that here, kind of line it up to where I think it's going to look good. And then I'm just going to rub, maybe with this, just to transfer all the graphite, all that pencil dust onto the rubber block. And I'm just using the round part of this tool so I don't have to use my fingertips too much and wear them out. Hopefully I traced it with enough pressure that it should transfer. Ta-da! Ahí está. So that's an example of how to get something that you've printed out from the internet or your own sketchbook. Just retrace it with a soft pencil and then rub it onto a block. I think it looks cool. You can't really tell too much about what it is. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I got the tip into my carving tool and I'm going to start carving. The thing that I have to keep in mind is to decide whether or not I want the lines that I drew to be raised or if I want to carve into them. So the thing is, whatever is raised or at the top of the block is the part that's going to touch the paper first, and that's the thing that's going to give you your print. So if you see here, I didn't wash the ink off of this, but the cross on this snowflake is the part that's the highest on this block. I don't know if you can see if I do this on the side. But everything else, this part in each of the corners, is carved down. Thanks, Freddie. So it's just something to think about when you start carving. So I have to think, do I want the lines of this drawing to stick up, or do I want them down? If it sticks up, it's going to be the color of the ink. It's going to be black or red or white or whatever. I only have black ink to work with today. We're going to keep it nice and simple. Or if I carve into the lines, that's the part that's going to be white, and the rest of it's going to be black. I think I'm going to carve into the lines, see how it goes. Because here, what I did is I carved around my drawing, around my design of the snowflake. So let's do it a little bit opposite. Let's do the opposite thing and see how that turns out. This part's going to take a little bit of a while, so go ahead and get a drink, get a snack. If you have any leftover Halloween candy, just don't get sick, okay? Because this is going to take a little while. But this is kind of another little example. This is just a stamp that you buy at the store. Se compra en la tienda esta estampilla. Y este es un ejemplo de cómo voy a hacer el trabajo aquí en el bloque de goma. La parte que está levantado es la parte que va a tocar el tinte y el papel primero, y ese va a crear el diseño. Y lo demás, que está más retirado o cortado, no va a tocar el papel tanto. Entonces ese se va a quedar en blanco. Y el otro en el color del tinte que escoges. Okay. Otra cosa que hay que tener en mente cuando usas esta herramienta es que la punta está un poco filosa. Entonces cuando estás recortando, tienes que tomar en mente que cuando recortas tu diseño, no cortes en la manera que te puedes cortar el dedo o la mano. Siempre fuera de su cuerpo. Or always cut away from you. I'm a little tired. My Spanish isn't very good. But what I like about carving on this rubber block is that it's very soft. So it doesn't take too much. You don't have to carve very deep either. But you don't have to use a lot of pressure. This thing that I brought out here is made of wood, and you would have to use, like a heavier duty carving tool. But you can see here the white part is the part that would touch the ink, and then the brown part, the wood, would be the part that doesn't touch the ink, so that would be your negative space. This block is beautiful, but it does take a lot of work to carve into wood. And it's easier on the hands to carve into rubber. I have to take my own advice to cut away from my body. In case it slips, I do not want to get cut. I know where my band-aids are, but let's not take that risk. So yeah, you get a whole bunch of little itty bits, and you're gonna have to clean your desk afterwards and the floor, because it does get a little messy depending on how delicate or intricate your design is. It also does help to turn your block as you're working with it. And then at the end of this, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be printing a little postcard. I have some postcard paper ready to go. And whoever wants a print of this little skull guy, just say so in the chat, and I'll talk to you about sending it in the mail. Okay, so I'm not carving very deep. I kind of want to see how it'll look like once I put the ink on it. So I have like my ink right here, I have my brayer right here, ready to roll, and then some extra ink right here. It's just block printing ink. There's also block printing ink for fabric, so you can, you know, carve a block and print on a t-shirt, print on a jacket. The cool thing about carving your own stamps is that you can use them over and over again. And you can make them as small or as big as you want. This used to be a part of a bigger block, but I got an X-Acto blade and cut that down, so you can make it as custom as you want. Did you guys go out to any Halloween parties? Or did you guys stay at home? Was there any dressing up? Any candy? Or good food? I had a lot of candy. I had sour candy. I had like mini M&Ms. Those are my favorite, the teeny tiny ones. Then I had regular M&Ms with peanuts. What else? Not pixie sticks. What is that called? It's called... Oh, I don't know what it's called, but it's powder, and then you have this little white stick, and you lick it, and then put it in the powder, and then you eat it. Had some of that. And different kinds of chocolate, too. I had a special kind of chocolate that had honeycomb in it. And it was a little crunchy. It was good. And don't worry if you don't get it perfectly on the lines. It's just kind of a guide. Because you'll find that the rubber will try to move and shift, especially if you're in an area that has a lot of detail in it. You just be gentle and just slowly push along. It'll become what it wants to be. got to this part so far, and I have all of this left to go. Let's see how long it takes me. So I have to do a test, and then I have to see if I like it or not, and if I need to go back in and carve a little bit more. Entonces ahí es donde me quedé. No me quedé, pero ahí es donde estoy ahorita. Voy a terminarlo. Voy a ver mi ejemplo en mi papel aquí. Si me gusta, voy a ver si me gusta o si no me gusta. Y sigo trabajando. Si hay unos detallitos que tengo que hacer. A ver. Yeah, if making stamps, this is similar to a technique called lino cutting, where you cut on linoleum. So there's wood block printing, there's rubber block printing, and then there's linoleum printing. So this is similar to a technique called lino cut or lino printing. Right now we're in the cutting stage. Like I said, the cool part is if I don't like it, I can always go back in and carve a little bit more, round out some of the shapes. It's completely up to you. But yeah, I would suggest that when you start, don't carve so deep, because you're gonna, first of all, it's gonna be a lot of pressure on your hands and on your wrist, and it's gonna take you longer to finish a piece. And that's not that fun. Here, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. You're gonna have to excuse the screen. That little plus sign is gonna disappear in a little bit, but hopefully that'll let you see what I'm doing a little bit better. Takes about a minute, I think. Okay. Ojalá si puede ver más bien, o mejor. You can see all the little bits and pieces now. It is a little messy. And then when we get to using the ink, have some water or some wet wipes, because it's going to get all over your hands. Or at least it does me. I get very messy. Always cut away from you. the rubber blocks that I got, they're not really any particular brand. I got them off of Amazon. But the carver tool, it's Speedball. I've used them before, they're pretty reliable, and I also like that you can store the extra tips in the back. So it's just convenient for me since I lose a lot of my stuff all the time. So it's all kind of in one place. But this is just a rubber block you can find on Amazon. So just if you need to search for it, I think you just search for rubber block printing block. I forget what exactly I searched for. But you get a set of like 8 or something like that for maybe around $10. If you do really small designs, again, kind of like this, you can make a lot of them. See, I can fit 4, maybe 6. Or if you do a big one, like for Valentine's card, Christmas card, you can have one really big design. And the cool thing is if you don't go too deep, you can also have, you know, like a double-sided design. I don't know if you're allowed to do that, but I like to do that. You can see a little bit here, it's getting a little dirty because my hands are smearing and smudging the graphite. So I'm getting graphite everywhere. And that's why I said this is kind of messy. It's really cool. And once you're done, you have a nice clean block. You can wash it with soap and water. Just be very gentle that you don't rub it too hard, or you might rub off the pieces that are sticking out, part of the design. And you wouldn't want to do that, so just be gentle. And I'm using my pinky, so that's why it's smearing. I'm using my pinky to kind of sustain my balance a little bit, so I don't have to float and have shaky hands carving shaky lines. Yeah. And another thing to keep in mind is this prints reverse. So if you have a symmetrical design like this, it doesn't really matter. But since this guy is facing one side, when I print, I'm going to have to flip it over. So this guy's going to be facing this, this way. Teeth, and then when I get to the flower, they're such big pieces, I think it'll be a little faster. Anyways, I hope you got your snack, your tea, coffee, chocolate. Have a drink handy. And it would be interesting to see how it prints. I know that there are professional places that will design and cut out a stamp for you, so you don't even do the carving. But I always think this is fun. It's kind of relaxing, just peeking at it slowly over time. And then when you're done, you have a nice little design that you can use over and over and over again. And if you hear some vibrating noises, it's not me, it's the block. The block is rubbing against the table. Okay, I think I have the teeth done. So let's do the eyeball next. Cut away from me, remember. I'm not good at following my own rules. See what else. I watched both of the Addams Family of movies. Those are pretty fun. And I still have to watch Beetlejuice. I watched the Halloween Town movies. I don't really like too many scary movies. I find that some of them are just, I don't know. I always get frustrated when the girl goes in the shower and there's like a killer at the house. I'm just like, girl, get out. Now is not a time to take a shower. I watched the new Sabrina series on Netflix. It's not too scary or anything like that. I think it's, I don't know if it's supposed to be a comedy. It's like a comedy drama, because some parts are, I think they're funny. I don't think it's like a super serious show. But one series that I watched a couple years ago that I thought was really funny, that was spooky, Halloween themed. I think it was called Scream Queens. There were all these girls, and they're all really mean, and they're like stereotypical, like popular girls. They like have a club, and they all hang out after school and stuff, and they just fool around and do dumb stuff. And then they all start dying in these like really funny ways, and you're trying to figure out who the killer is. And I think it was like 2 to 3 seasons long. Just like the way that they died is really funny. Yeah, I like that one. It was very exaggerated. Also, the music for Street Fighter 2, this game came out in like the 90s. Soundtrack is real good. And then the remix, of course, they added it with like more of like different style, or they add their own flair to it. Kind of like when you make your own art. But the remixes are really good. Some of them sound like they should be music in a movie and stuff. And I realize I'm speaking more English than Spanish. I've been tired. I stayed up real late last night watching, what was it? Blood of Zeus on Netflix. I thought it was good, and then I just watched another episode and another one, and then I finished it. I have way too much stuff on my Netflix list. I haven't even gone through most of it. There's a lot of movies and TV shows. I know some people have been joking during the quarantine that they watched all of Netflix and all of Hulu. And I'm just like, that's a lot of TV. I know it's probably a joke though. Okay, this song is a remix of the Ken level, and every time his music goes on, even in the game, it's so good. But this is one of my favorite remixes. So you can kind of see I have like this section left, the darkest part, that's still pencil. I've been getting around to the bony part. I'm almost done here in this section. And if you want me to speak more Spanish, si quieres que hable más español, déjame saber. Es más fácil para mí pensar en inglés. Me desvelé un poco anoche. See all those little bits? So messy. Get out here. Oh, this is an interesting remix of Ryu's stage. See, I like how they do different instruments, they change the beat a little bit, but if you've played the game before, you can recognize the song. Another game soundtrack that I really, really like is the Donkey Kong Country. I can't decide which game is my favorite. I played Donkey Kong Country 2, 1, 2, and 3, and then I didn't play the 64 version because at the time I didn't have that expansion pack for the 64, but now I do. I just haven't gotten around to it. I like, what is it? I think it's Donkey Kong Country 2, the sky level where you're on like a boat and you're climbing up the sail, the mast. I think that one had a good song in the background. And that's what I like about good game soundtracks. They play in the background and you can enjoy it. And you know it's going to repeat, but it's so good that you don't really care. It doesn't bother you that much. Because I've played some really, really bad games, and the music just goes over and over and over again, and it's a loop, like a 30-second loop. And at that point, I would just rather play on mute. But a mobile game that I've been playing, that I've been enjoying so far, it's called Battle Cats. It's free to download. I'm not advertising it or anything. I'm just saying what I like. You get to summon these different cats. You get like big cats, fat cats, tall cats, robot cats, pirate cats. It's all kind of random. You get like a base set of 2 cats. It's like a little round cat and like a tall, long, bean-looking cat. Each of them have different skill sets, different advantages, and as you continue playing the game, you find more cats to join like your army, I guess. You have a little base, and you can summon as many cats as you want. The only limit is like your income, your pocket, your wallet, or whatever. It has to go up to a certain amount so you can be able to afford to summon that cat, and it'll come out of your little hut, your house. And it's just kind of like a side scroller, so it'll scroll across the screen towards the enemy territory, and each level is like a different country. So you get to fight in like Thailand and like all these other places, and if you do really good, you get like a power up that'll assist you in your next quest. Cats want to take over the world. It's really funny. But you get like a lot of funny cats. I have Long Cat, or I don't know what his name is, but he's tall. He's got a round body and like 4 long skinny legs. Looks like he's walking on stilts. Yeah. But I think it's called Battle Cats, and it's fun. If I'm waiting in the car, like during a car wash or something like that, and I'm stuck for a couple minutes, it's a nice quick game. I don't have to spend a lot of time on it. Yeah, there's also a lot of mobile games now that unfortunately are like pay to play, or at least it seems like it. Like you get so many turns, and then after the 10th turn it says like pay 99 cents for 10 more turns, or pay $10 for a pack of 100. And I don't know, I guess I'm not used to it, but I don't really care for it. There we go. I'm getting to the flower finally. It's this bit right here. Also not very good with naming flowers. I mean, I can name them like Billy and Frank and stuff, but naming them or identifying them, I'm not really good at that. I know roses. I think those are pretty easy. Daisies. I'm trying to think. Petunias. I know petunias. And marigolds. Those were like the obvious ones. But all the other ones are just, I call them pretty flowers. I know if I spent more time, I'd probably be able to learn all their names and how to grow them and what they like. But I don't know. I think I just like to look at them. The only plants I'm able to keep alive are basically cacti, because they don't need a lot of water. I look at them and yeah, they're still alive. So every so often I'll go outside and I'll just look at my plants and I'll be like, thank you for not dying. I have a succulent. It's called donkey ear, and it's got these really big pretty leaves. They're kind of pink and purple. It's mostly green, and I don't know why, but it grew this like really long stem with like little leaves coming out of it, and at the very top is this really big, beautiful flower. I thought that was really cool. I think this flower is... No, I don't know. It's a pretty flower. Let's just leave it at that. It's not a rose. I can tell you that much. Got this right here. Okay. But yeah, back to the music. I mean, these games are considered old now, but I can appreciate still like the character design, the level design, like the game development, what went into it to figure out like all those combos and stuff. That's really cool. And I think it opened up the doors for all the other cool stuff that came after that. I'm just checking to see if I missed anything. I think I got it all. Okay. Ignore the pencil marks, the smears. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a wet wipe. I'm just going to wipe this down, get it nice and clean, and then we're going to practice printing on it. So, give me a second. The wet wipe was the only thing that I didn't bring, so I'm going to grab that really quick. And it's good too because it'll keep my hands somewhat clean as I continue. Alright, so let me go there. And then just clean as much as I can. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just any extra bits that might get in the way of printing. Also, my table's not the best, so ignore the shaking. It's the table. There's no earthquake. Okay. So if you remember, I didn't carve it too deep. We'll see what that means when I ink it. So I have here, let's see if I can zoom out a little bit. So I have here just an acrylic sheet. You can use like a picture frame. The plastic or the glass that's in there, you just pop it out. You just need something nice and smooth. And I need some water. Excuse me. So all I do, this is speedball printing ink, is just dab a little bit. Don't need too much. You can see that's the shiny bit that I just put down. This is a brayer. There's this side here. That's what I use to set it down if I'm not using it. This roller, the kind of like squishy rubbery bit, I don't want it to lay flat like that, because what ends up happening is the weight will start smooshing it down, and it will no longer be round. It'll be kind of oval and lopsided, and you won't get an even print. So what I do is just spread it. Now you can see all of that is nice and tacky and sticky, and it makes kind of like a, almost like a really soft Velcro sound. That's the sound of wet ink, and that's what you want to hear. You don't need a lot either, because if you get like a big gob and put it on your block, it's gonna go into the creases, and you don't want that, because otherwise, why did you carve it all? It's just going to be all black or all red or blue or whatever color that you use. So I think I have my roller, my brayer, full of ink. So I'm just going to scoot that to the corner, move this here. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit so you can see it a little better. And I'm just going to start rolling it. So I'm going to have it at an angle so I can see it a little better. And then just gently go up and down, and it'll reveal your cool little design. Get more ink that corner. It needs a little bit more. Alright, so again, I'm going to set it like this on the metal part on the table so I don't mess up my roller. Get a new sheet of paper. This is my tester. And either you can put the block on top, or you can put the paper on top of the block. Let's try and see what happens when I put the block on top of the paper. Just like that. And then you're just gonna press. Now professional printers, they have like this like set of two rollers, like a roller on the top and a roller on the bottom. You feed it and you crank it. When you do, it feeds into both rollers, top and bottom, and applies even pressure, so then you get a really nice print. I don't have that, so we're just doing this old school with a lot of pressure. So make sure I get the center and the sides. And now for the reveal. Ready? Whew. So let's get in there so you can see a little better. So this is what I have so far. You can see the texture of the paper, so that tells me, you know, maybe add a little bit more ink, because some parts are black, and I kind of like that texture in the background. So my stamp probably needs a little bit more ink. Let's see, the line work I think is pretty good. See, I didn't really need to go that deep. But I can also try it on a paper that's not so textured, que no tenga tanta textura, and that will probably make a nice print. So it's always good to have a tester. Let's set that aside. And look how pretty the stamp is. Alright. Let me grab another sheet of paper, and then we'll do the same process again. So this is a postcard. It's got a place for a stamp, address, you know, regular postcard stuff, and it's pretty much the size of this stamp. So it's like 4 by 6, 4 inches by 6 inches. So that's what I'm going to be printing on. And if you want a postcard, just let me know, either in the chat or send me a message on social media. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. You can find me and ask for a postcard and I'll get you one. But let me get a piece of paper. So this is the back of the printer paper. It's really smooth. So this is test number 2. If you have like a big paintbrush or something, that will help kind of sweep. It's like a mini broom. It'll help sweep all these little bits. There's so many of them. It also helps if you're drawing and you're using an eraser, because it's rubber. It will help clean up your desk, and then you just scoop it into sorry, I lost my train of thought. You just scoop it into a trash can, or like I have under my desk, I just have like a little paint bucket, and I put my paper scraps and just whatever in there. So let's see, that was just a little bit more than what I did the first time. And again, this is just speedball ink, block printing. What is this? It's like 2.5 ounces. This is gonna last me a while because you only use a couple squeezes. But again, if you want to experiment, they do sell full kits online. If you look up Speedball, that's SPEEDBALL. Look that up online. They have kits that have the brayer, they have the carving tool, a little rubber block, and some ink. I think probably smaller than this, so you get an assortment of like maybe 2-3 colors. And it has like instructions and stuff. It's a really fun thing to experiment with and play with. Printing has been around since like a long time. I'm not really good with the history and stuff, but it's really hands-on. You don't need too much. Just making sure it's nice and flat. You don't need too much. It takes a little bit of time and a little bit of practice, but you know what doesn't? Look how beautiful that looks. Alright. Let's zoom in here, and I already got stuff on my fingers. Okay. Before this dries, let's stop and admire how beautiful this looks. So this is just the rubber block, and you can see it's you know, fairly thick. I didn't carve that far deep into it. I can if I want to, and if I want to add texture, kind of like how I did this, I can just, there we go, carve out some lines, or I can make it completely smooth, but I like the texture, I like those little lines. So let's see, I did the block on top, so let's do the block on the bottom and see how that works. Let me center that. Make some space. And let's do it here. So yeah, all it is just experimenting, seeing how you work, what works for you, what you're comfortable with. Like I said, I learned not to carve too deep, just because it takes a lot of time, it makes a huge mess. It's tiresome on your wrist and on your hands because you're working, you know, with more pressure for a longer period of time. All of that is stuff that I learned. Oop, I'm smearing the pencil. That's all stuff that I learned. So if you want to start printmaking, block printing, whether it's in wood, like this, it's so beautiful, or you want to do linoleum, which is like a little harder, or you want to start with something soft and flexible like rubber. I mean, I don't know how much those kits cost, but I'm sure that you can find something. You don't need too much. You need the ink, you need a brayer, and you need a carving tool. Everything else you can probably find at your house. Okay. And there you go. So you can see the parts where there's more ink, and you see parts where there's less ink. There's still lines, and that's from what was already left on the block. So really, if I want to do another print without the line texture, I would have to wash this block, and you can just wash it with soap and water. Or what I'm going to do, we're going to learn something together and see if it works. Just using a wet wipe and seeing if that works. And it looks like it does. It smears it though. So maybe like a wet paper towel. That might be a little better. But when I rub around here, I'm just going to be a little bit more gentle. I can go hard around these areas that don't have anything carved. But I don't want to mess up my design, pull up anything or tear it, rip it. So, yeah. Let's see if I got any clean spaces left. I got a corner. Let's take advantage of that. And then when you store a stamp, I'm just going to use this one as an example. You always store it facing up. This is, I think it's linoleum, because maybe it's like hard rubber, but it's glued onto a piece of wood. So you can do that if you do a small one, or if you do a really thin piece. So you can see here, this is a really thin piece of maybe rubber. And it's just glued onto a piece of wood. There's a little bit of a section here for your fingers, so you can grab it and stamp. So this is an actual stamp. This doesn't have anything like that, and it's a little thicker. So it's just about learning what works, what's available. Let me see if I can get a wet paper towel. And I'll just keep cleaning it a little bit more. They also They also sell this special soap. It's like a brush cleaner soap. It's very gentle for cleaning paintbrushes. It's, I don't know what it has inside of it, but it keeps the bristles, the hair on the brushes, nice and soft, especially for painting with acrylic. Acrylic is a plastic polymer, so once it dries, it's somewhat hard. So you don't want that on the tips of your brush, because otherwise what'll end up happening is I have to put a little bit more ink. There's a little hole here that lifted up when I was rolling it. That means that the ink is dry. And that means that the roller's not going to get evenly covered with the ink. So I'm just going to add a little bit more. Oop. Try to get all of that covered up. So the side of the roller, the middle of the roller, the edges, as evenly coated as possible. So this is just like a plastic sheet I got at the art store, Michael's. But you don't even need to get like a plastic sheet. You can use a picture frame, a picture frame. Just pop out the glass or the plastic, whatever's inside, and use that instead. You will need a brayer and you will need something to carve. But also, if you have like an eraser, it's rubber, so it's basically a really small rubber block that you can carve into. The only thing is it's going to be small. But maybe if you go to the dollar store and you get like a big eraser, you can do the same thing as this. I don't see why not. But I think it's really cool when you're doing printmaking, because you have almost 2 art pieces. You have the block itself, which is beautiful to look at. It's a carving, so that's a type of art. There's the relief, so it's the negative space and the positive space, the part that's lifted on the top and the part that's, you know, carved into, like on the bottom, that doesn't quite reach your surface. And if you want to get real fancy, you can do different carvings, so different cuts, and then layer them on top of each other. So you can have maybe, because this prints basically the background, if I carved into the skull and then I made another block that was the same shape and size of the skull, but it was lifted instead of cut into, I can do a different color. So then I can have a print that has, you know, background one color, the skull another color, and the flowers a different color. So you can do combinations and you can layer them. And I know when I took an art history class, block printing on wood was really popular, and they would have almost an assembly line where one person was in charge of carving and printing the background, another person was in charge of cutting out and printing the trees. So it made this layered piece of art. just to make sure. Yep. Got it on the table. My elbow's gonna see it soon. Need to clean it up. Okay, so this is the postcard. Kind of line it up. Add a little bit of pressure. Okay, hopefully that's enough. Let's see. Okay, so that's what I did on the postcard. This one I won't be giving out because I can see that it needs a lot more ink. Being very cheap with the ink. So let's see what happens when we do a little bit more ink. I didn't carve too deep, but the brayer isn't getting the ink inside of the pieces I carved out. It's a little shiny so you can't see it, but there it is. It's very wet. Let's try again. And the postcards that I'm using are just plain watercolor postcards. They're thick, so you can do watercolors on them. That's the reason why I'm using them, because they'll absorb the ink and they won't get like floppy. That usually happens if you're using like really thin, kind of see-through copy paper and stuff. That was kind of crooked, so let me see if I can get it a little straighter by doing this. Okay. I think it's good. Really pressing into it to see, or to make sure that the ink is put my hand a little bit. Make sure the ink has touched every little bit of the surface. So here's our next experiment, and what ended up happening is some pieces, some parts had a little bit too much ink. It didn't get into the cut of the block itself. And let me put it side by side so you can see. But what ended up happening is when I squished it, or when I applied pressure and rubbed it, the ink did move on the paper into the parts where the line was. But what we can do is, hopefully now it's got the right amount of ink that I can just use what I've got so far and do it again. So sometimes when you do your first print, it's going to be really dark and really goopy. You made sure to put enough ink, not like me, who was just trying to be super cautious and not waste too much ink. But usually the first print's the darkest, and then as you keep going, it gets lighter and lighter. So similar to, let me see. Whoop. Similar to this. So the first print is the darkest, the next one's going to be lighter, and then the next one and the next one's going to be lighter and lighter as you keep removing more and more ink off your block. Okay, let's see. So this is the next one. I don't really like it, and all those bumps and lines, they're from the texture of the paper. So let's go back to our printer paper, just because that was the smooth paper that we've done so far, and let's compare it. So that tells me that the paper that I need to use for this specific print is gonna have to be smooth and not textured. And what I can do is print on a smooth piece of paper and then glue it on to the postcard. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. So that way these don't, you know, go to waste. But it's good paper. Anyways, I think I'm done for today. I will keep working on it, keep experimenting and learning. But thanks for joining me, watching me learn how to print on different types of paper so we can make these nice postcards. Again, oop, I got ink on me again. If you want a postcard with this design on it, so it's a cat skull with some pretty flowers on it, just send me a message and I'll mail it out to you. Alright, I think that's it for today. Feliz Día de Muertos, Día de los Angelitos, y hasta la próxima. I'll do another one maybe in the next week or so. We'll see how the schedule turns out. But if you're not subscribed already, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can subscribe to my email list. That's where I'm going to be sending out announcements. I'm going to be opening my store today, and let's see, posting videos. So this video that I'm doing right now, that's like been over half an hour, maybe an hour long. I'm going to condense it into like 5 minutes. So that way you can look back and see, you know, what the journey that we've taken together. Alright. So, I think that's it for today. But I'll see you next time. Oops, there we go. Gosh. Alright. Bye-bye.